Talking about horses, bringing you closer to some of the best horsemen in the world for tips, insights, and stories. Listen at home, at work, in the car, or in the saddle. This is Talking About Horses. Here's your host, Patrick King.
Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you for tuning in for episode number 52 of Talking About Horses. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Charles de Kunffy. Charles de Kunffy is a USDF Hall of Fame master horseman, author, coach, clinician, and judge. Raised in the classical tradition, Charles is a firm believer in schooling the horse in a comprehensive system of training, including cross-country, jumping, and dressage. His experience as a dressage judge, trainer, and author make him one of the most sought-after dressage masters and clinicians today. Charles is the author of 6 published books on the classical dressage tradition and is working on 2 more. His books are frequently quoted by other writers, referred to by colleagues, and are used as college textbooks and in educational pamphlets. His equestrian articles are well known on many continents and have been published by some of the finest equestrian magazines. Charles de Kunffy can be best described as a gentleman and a scholar, and most importantly, an indomitable ambassador for the horse. Charles, thank you so much for joining me once again for an episode of Talking About Horses.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure and a privilege, and it's wonderful to be with like-minded people. And so I think we are, and so I'm glad I'm accepted today on the program. So you ask, and everybody asks, how about a little bit about yourself? My life was enormously privileged because I had the most horrible things going through, because history came in big avalanches to cover us, and we lived the horrors of mankind. One reads about the newspapers, but we had to live it, and we lived the opposite. I was born into a society and an age that thought of itself as 19th century. Of course, it wasn't. I'm not that old. However, we lived like 19th century elegance, aesthetics, and all the principles of honesty and honor and loyalty and all those long forgotten, long ignored, wonderful things. And so I was born into this. And then came, Nazism, and then came communism, a lot of it, with enormously brutal force. And it saw the disappearance and the interchange of values that we used to call Western civilization. And yet I feel that I had an enormously privileged life. Privileges including the horrible parts, because after all, I survived it, and here I am,
Yes.
sparkling and shining in the 21st century, because America is the 21st century with all these gimmicks that don't want to work on the computer. But here I am, this innocent 19th century little creature, being 21st century angry, mad, and lifting the hammer to charge the computer with it. But this is, anyway, as far as horseback riding, I'm educated. Lo and behold, I'm a person who was brought up in principled, academically solid, and absolutely the tradition of 2,000 years of evolution to sort out what works and why, and what is good for the horse. And of course, this is no time and place to make a lecture of it or a lesson of it, but I have a lot of times talked about it in interviews, and I am also looking at my own books, and sometimes we read a chapter and talk about it with students. But it was a world and a time in equestrian life where academic um, equitation in a structured school was fading out gradually. And while the interest and passion for training horses grew, the supply of expert helpers, wonderful upcoming trainers and teachers and judges were not looked after. We didn't think of educating the next generations, and yet we are passionate about a living art. And here is the flashing red button telling us, wait a minute, if it's a living art, it dies immediately when people drill it. All living arts survive by those who absolutely devoted to retain it in its magnificent form. And so, in other words, don't invent it, study it, learn it. It's all there. The world is not breathlessly waiting for your white gloves to wave at us and tell us that we are so excellent in the half pass that would not rate in any riding academy anybody's attention. But here, because you name it a half pass, it's glorified into a section of human consciousness that is supposed to be animated. Well, forget it. A living art survives by its proponents, those who practice it every day. And whatever you do every day, if you have a bad day on an average Tuesday, it's part of your living art. It's your, pardon me, rotten Tuesday, right? So it's what you do is what makes it live. And then we allow the principles to disappear and even the terminology to be inaccessible, misunderstood, misinterpreted by those who use it. Because where is the academy that says there's only one definition of impulsion? There's only one definition of collection. There's only one definition of forward. Forward what? Forward with what? The diesel locomotive on the railway? What do you want to push forward? Is anything defined? Is anything agreed? Everything. Is anything understood? No, because it's institutional, institutionally guided, agreed, standardized knowledge on which it's based, like most art and sciences are. This is, every doctor knows the meaning of the word infection. There's no argument about it. There's no competition infection and uncompetition infection. You just got it. You have infection. So celebrate it, as today everybody tells you to celebrate everything. So, so it is that I am, I spend my life advocating what I was taught, or yes, really exactly. And so I asked when I was talked into having a website, which to me sort of is an alien territory, and in a website to have a salon. And those who have heard some of my earlier comments about the salon know that I highly regard it because it evolved, as everything is changeable in this world. It evolved into one of the few places where like-minded people can gather to strengthen one another by the virtue of how should I say, equals who could say or could speak up and ask or tell equally. There's no class structure to a salon. And this was the great cultural value of salons emerging in the Renaissance, actually the late Renaissance and very early Baroque periods, and since then evolved better and better. And it was a place of a salon is, of course, a living room, an elegant living room where you could gather with like-minded people who had something to say. But that was, of course, your entrance fee. You you were allowed to join because your peers selected you or elected you. In other words, you were sought after and gobbled up. So
Okay.
Salonese, who were always ladies. Why? Because ladies ruled the house, the home, the entertainment, the social life. It was all the woman's territory.
Mhm.
And ladies wanted to, of course, have a place, a platform where they were equal for opinions and effort for men and equal across all societies. But the entrance fee was you had to be somebody who had informed information, whether you were the painter of the Ceiling Chapel in Rome, or whether you were a great playwright, Rostand in France in the 19th century, whatever. If you were a glassmaker, whatever you did, you had to be given it the quality that allowed you to join, of course, the salon. So I have a salon, but I don't have a fishing rod, and I cannot fish for the talented. So the reversed and sad role is that I can be sought after, but I cannot seek others because I don't know if you are out there talented and vigorous enough to be in an interesting salon, because then you have to join my salon rather than waiting for me to find out where you are hiding in which corner of the world. So I also wanted to say um, I'm trying to uh, say that anyone interested can join in the salon in two ways. So one is guest for 1 year or joining the private group, the Salon of Charles de Kunffy. That's in the quotation mark. This is, and you can join for 1 month or you can join for 1 year, anything like that. But it is a good way to try it for a month or try it any way to see if this is to you meaningful or not. Because on the Salon, we publish the freshest or newest interview and lecture material. And so it gets the first look. And later it could age deliciously into the average, the average platform, which is for people who have only common aspirations and not exceptional aspirations.
Okay.
So the other way of joining, I try to, it's, yes, so I mentioned the monthly package too, but also you can contact Catherine, who is the chief of my, not just the salon, but the website, because that to me is alien territory. So don't forget, I used to be transported in carriages that were pulled by 4 horses and very beautiful. And so I'm the ancient regime trying to find the trying to find the pedal in the car with my right foot. And so anyway, this you can join, and you can also contact Catherine in my website. And then when you join, Catherine also has a something where, what is it called? It's an entry ticket that reduces the prices for 10% or whatever. It's something like that. But you can reach for it anywhere on my website. That would be the best way. So back to the salon idea is that especially in living art, if you are not in a peer group, that is so important. I learned from the greatest masters, honestly. But learning the facts is just the entering a door. Learning and knowledge knowledge of facts or principles is nothing unless it leads to understanding. And understanding is the kind of thing in which the peer group is very important. When you go through lectures and 8 hours of riding and everything, all about the shoulder in and how it can go wrong, or it can be right, or it can be greater value or lesser value, depending on. Then you go out and watch 6 of your peers in their lesson, in their riding competition, testing, practice, and being critiqued by the coach and saying this was wrong because you did the ta. And you learn from each other, because it's all about this. I now dread the expression, but sorry to say, diversity. I'm sick of diversity because it leads to much mischief. But the diversity of riding 700 different horses, which Academies offered you these opportunities. The diversity of watch, 12 others in the Olympic team, the diversity of riding every day, jumping for 4 days, and then only dressage, and then only, because ultimately the goals of all these performances are the same. Rhythm, relaxation, trust, focus, blah, 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 engagement, there's all. Jumper needs the same as the dressage horse. But when they perform, we like the jumper to be peppy and jump high, and the dressage horse to be well cadenced in the passage, but it's the same goal with each one of them. So anyway, part of an educated rider is to be in a diverse company. There are many ways of coaching a horse or teaching a horse passage. There are many ways, good, bad, indifferent, on a scale of right to wrong, but there are differences. If you watch how I never forget, am I allowed to say anecdotes and be
Absolutely.
by this? So there used to be, when I was a bright little aspirant of maybe 14 years of age or something, that I went every morning to watch one professor with glasses and a leather coat bring out his gray horse and stand in the middle of the arena, doing noticeably nothing in particular. And you stood there and you waited why this old man is standing there and making minor adjustments on his posture and whereabouts, and the horse's posture and whereabouts, by doing little gestures that made the horse step a little forward, but maybe 1 foot, and then a perfect halt, and then a perfect pasture, and oh no, this is too deep, or oh no, this is too high, oh my God, this is bending the torso to the left. No, it was miniature, monitored in this middle of the arena. And after 5 minutes or 6 of these, the rider seemingly did nothing but a wish, and the horse went into a majestic piaffe in place. No warm-up other than the 6 minutes standing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this horse, like a magic, and I mean a fabulous piaffe, seated and elegant and calm and delighted. It was like giving him a bucket of oats. He looked happy. The rider looked happy. And I thought, I need to watch this every morning. There's a secret here somewhere. Yes. But this may not be suitable to the average other person who needs to do 1,000 things before he even can approach a transition to a piaffe or something. So anyway, the story is that we need all the other guys if it's between, and I'm at the same time when I explain this, I'm destroying the current system of clinicking because we cannot teach the art in clinics.
Right.
clinics, one only clinics. So anyway, so back to the main line. The thing is that one coach, one rider on one horse alone in a huge arena in Minnesota somewhere is not cutting the cheese. That doesn't work. It can give you a lot. I am not saying don't ever do another clinic. Quite the opposite. Grab for anything that informs you. But you cannot make your knowledge into understanding without seeing how your colleagues on various levels struggle with the same art to bring it up in level, and of course meaning for the horse. We are not the important thing in our art. It's we are the nobodies who have the privilege to have access to a horse which we want to elevate in his terms, not in our terms. So anyway, we need, and of course a salon now doesn't take place in a beautiful blue room or something, because we are not in 1733,
Right.
except I wish we were, except for the dental care. But the point is now that here we are trying to converge into a salon that's in the ethers. You know, the salon is that I push a button and then, you know, somebody in Poland pushes a button and we have a communication. It's an amazing new opportunity. And that's why I thought, please let me get a salon and please let's do something that is in this modern age, modern technology, but gives us the old-fashioned salon life.
Yes.
And so if you have any talent to bring to us, then join the salon and tell your stories or tell your ideas about horsemanship or what you observe and what you have. So anyway, academies were in a way salons.
Okay.
And in riding academies, you were chosen. You didn't go out and say, I'm a member, here is $300. No, nobody was interested in your money at all in an academy. And you had to bring your body, mind, and spirit. And if some of these portions didn't work well, they kicked you out. There was no things like beat up your horse. No, hit him on the neck, give him a good whack on the poll, or give him behind your spur a big slap. And you thought, no. On that, one time you didn't have to repeat it. You were dismissed full, because outside the gates of a school like that were people in line waiting to be entered, waiting to be privileged, waiting to be accepted. Why should they caress the wrong ones? Out you go. So it was, of course, a very strict selection, and it cannot be easily replicated in any way in a salon, because the salon was kind of giving the opposite, that they mean the freedom to travel in all society. You could be a man, a woman, talented, you could be tall or tiny or whatever. You belonged if you had something to say. And so all the more at our age, when academies are disappearing and the authority is disrespected, authority of knowledge is disrespected, then we really need this wonderful salon life where you can spot people, invite people in, and develop something together. Draw on other people's feelings, emotions, and ideas, and then create something new and lovely. So
Perfect. So in this salon, then folks get to interact with you. Folks get to listen to these interviews.
yes,
I know you and I did
yeah,
an interview the other day for the first chapter of your book. That was
yes,
Dressage Principles Illuminated, correct?
yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So take me, if you can, take me inside the salon. If I sign up for the salon, what am I expecting whenever I get in there?
So you can expect to have a voice that, if you permit it, can be published and become a common property of privileged information, and also inspirational. So there are, I think now there are some posted, but some people react to our interview together,
Okay.
and many others that I did in between. We also did in the same book, chapter 2, and we are planning already the chapter 3 coming up. And people wrote wonderful comments. They are kind of short stories about their experience in one of my clinics and how this worked and that and why. So these are it gives you a platform, and you can tell your stories back to us. And we can, it's an inspirational uh, kind of environment where we have a way of reading your stuff, not only our stuff,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Mhm. Mhm. So then
Because
you're personally interacting with people also
yes,
in the salon?
yes, then we can answer them. It's kind of like a blog, but it will
Okay.
develop into something more dignified than a blog, because a blog is kind of, doing your laundry in public or something. It's not,
Yes.
it,
It's very one-sided, right? It's very
it's
one-sided.
one-sided. Yeah. But this could become a dialogue or multi-log or something
Okay.
where people can say, well, wait a minute, if you had that experience with, a horse that was not bending to the right, let me tell you what did, or what my coach suggested, and then you input, you see.
Okay. Okay.
So does this answer it basically? And that the first of um, conversations about book chapters or whatever else, or what you saw when you attended the competitions in Aachen, Germany, or something, you can recall your impressions or your concerns, and there was not that kind of platform really available easily.
Mhm.
So it's it will never replace the schools and academies. Unfortunately, a salon doesn't replace that. It just shares it.
Shares it. Okay. Great.
Yes,
And the way that you've got this accessible in this way, anybody around the world can access this then.
yes, yes. I should say so. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Perfect.
yeah, and many of these stories, these responses by riders were, I think, on, I'm so bad with this iPod, or there are these platforms, not Apple, not Twitter, but the other one. I think
Um,
it was with an I. Uh, um, anyway,
I'm terrible with it too. As much as I'm on here, I'm terrible with this stuff.
yes, well, I'm terrible with this stuff too, but it will take longer than a lifetime to roll into it. I don't have that much time left to get familiar with this world, because, whether I ask for a fine hotel recommendation or whatever, I just get an advertisement about a Polish cigar or something. So you just, it's beyond me. But people who join join this salon will have to have some skill with the computer, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay, so is there, well, what would be interesting? Okay, if you ask me, there are big topics, and I always think I address them in my books, but there's always, no, it's not enough explain that part of it. So again, what on earth are the goals of the classical riding? Nobody can state the goals. They get this certificate and that certificate. They don't know the goals of what we are supposed to do.
Right.
So imagine if the goal is to arrive in Rome and you end up in Kazakhstan. You are in the wrong place. You wanted to go to Rome. So anyway, where are we going? What are the legitimate ways of getting there? Because there are real transports that get you there or real derailment. Sure. And of course, it's been tested through 2,000 years. We kept the good stuff. We eliminated the bad stuff. Congratulations. So we don't need to reinvent it. We have to learn it.
We have to learn it. We have to study it. And this is where you talk about
again, the major concepts, all the terminology, the terminus technicus of an art is very important. Then, of course, the level on which you function. It involves elegance, it involves expertise, it involves all the personal characteristics equal the evolution of the rider in virtues. And because horses made virtuous people and better principled humans, the nobility and the powerful always sent their children to ride. They had to ride. Because if you have to rule a principality, or you have to rule a duchy, or a kingdom, you better be a principled, honorable, other-oriented, giving, and filled with gratitude adult. That's what you have to be. And this is what the stuff of horsemanship is all about. It wasn't just, take me from here to the dentist and back. No, it was all about, I am trying to learn about who I am, and my horse tells me who I am. And when a knowledgeable person watches you ride, I judged for decades and watched hundreds and hundreds of riders. You wear yourself in the open. You can see what kind of a person is coming down that center line. And by the end of the test, 12 minutes later, you have a pretty good idea what's cooking in this chappie because you watched the rider on display. You see? So these principles are all, each one in a riding academy. You talk about it for a month or two. I mean, when you talk about impulsion and energy and kinetic energy versus engagement and so on, for God's sakes, it's a month. And here it's a Sunday. I'm just taking a clinic on Sunday, but will you learn about these things? No, you will not learn about these things because they take a month to think it through and to use the examples.
And do you think this is where you mentioned the idea of how terminology has gotten mixed and misunderstood and mistranslated and things like that? So we're not taking the time to really learn about this. It's just a word that you hear in part of an exercise you're doing or something.
Yes, exactly. And depending on who applies which word and so on, it each, in a way, changes connotation.
Yes.
Because sometimes you say, my God, there's this rider pulling on the horse so high that, is really water skiing. With straight-legged, pushing the stirrup forward and standing, the hauling on the horse. So the horse basically transports this rider on his mouth. He's not on his hind legs. The rider is like, anyway, it's the wrong rider. So, but somebody said, you have to contact. Yeah, yes, but wait a minute. Could you tell me the definition of contact? Boy, I told many times my definition of contact because it's not my definition. It's what we inherited. It was Josipovich and Hajlinsky and all the great writers, Weitjen and Klimke and everybody, those were the guys who defined for us what the meaning of contact is and who is doing it and why and what for. So, but these things should be cleaned up. I mean, this is terrifying when the major concepts are not shined on with a flashlight. It should be explained.
Yes.
And of course, institutions did that very well. And of course, they could pass on because this is a mentoring art. This is very interesting that this art is not like the art of medicine.
Yeah.
The medical staff is educated without mentoring, but for heaven's sakes, the performing art is all about mentoring. If you are a concert pianist, you better get a piano teacher. Or if you are an opera baritone, you better have a voice teacher. I mean, this is a mentoring art. We perform. And it's lost if the people are reduced in, I'm not saying reduced to a lack of, in other words, often the problem is not caused by the wrong information, but by the utter lack of information.
Okay.
Because it's wrong information if you tell the wrong, if you explain the wrong way impulsion or the wrong way collection or something. But how about when it's absolutely not even explained? It's overlooked, like some of the competition sheets. Disengaged horse runs in front of an invisible cart and runs and runs and runs while his mouth is resting on his chest.
Yes.
And his
yes. To contact, more contact, more leg.
Forward horizontal, the horizontal ears that are, so then of course the problem is omission. Yeah, problem by omission and problems by commission, because it's a mentoring art. So you need, that's why we were looked at and coached every day. We didn't get 3 clinics a year. Once you're in that academy, you better watch out. And of course, nobody minced words and was overly polite. You were told terrible things about yourself. And you basically got an upbringing. And it was basically incidental that you were on a horse while you were getting an upbringing. But they polished you up pretty well. So it was a very different world. And all the more we should be jealous about recouping the good parts of that world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the mentoring idea, and I love that you talk about that, and I've heard you talk about that in the past as well. I'm trying to think of how I want to ask this question now that we're live and on the spot and all. I should have come up with it sooner. But when we're talking about a mentoring art and we have, I don't know, schedules, we have things that we're doing, we have maybe distance between us and who we might consider to be a mentor. How do we practice this mentoring art if we don't feel that we have access to one?
Yes, well, this is then when you have to piece it together. It's like, my sarcastic comment is, who is your best friend? It is the 336 people in my address book. I don't have a best friend. I have an address book, and everybody in it is very important to me. So my best friend is 362 people in the address book. That's my best friend.
Okay.
And it's the same in mentoring now. You have to pick it. I have 2 here, 2 books there, 2 friends here, 2 of my colleagues, 2 of my closest competitors or whoever. And you pick on, those are your samples. But I tell you, with the tutoring thing, for instance, Leonardo da Vinci was tutored and raised in Verrocchio's studio. So it is absolute saturation. Again, it's not just body and technique.
Mhm.
It's not skills. It's an inner life. And the first assignment that Verrocchio gave, that, there were little things, mix paint or do whatever, also wash dishes, feed the dog, hit your sister or whatever. It's all part of the thing. And then finally he says, I want you to paint for me something that has, meaning and structure and the whole thing. So the first assignment is a difficult one. He said, paint me an angel. Well, the painting was finished. There were two angels on it, one by the great master Verrocchio and one by the dirty little student in the kitchen. He did the other angel, and that was the great angel to this day. The great masters not came close to Leonardo's beautiful angel.
Mm.
So it is mentoring. Imitate me, join me in this painting, and lo and behold, the student outranks the master.
Wow.
And in riding, it should be the same. Why not? If your mentor was like von Neindorf, I knew him very well, a wonderful man. If you had a mentor like von Neindorf, for heaven's sakes, it didn't bother anybody if you surpassed him and you became the better, you scored, 10% higher than he. Why not? But
Right.
what a master he was to raise people to that level.
Yes.
So this is where we are now, that you can't move in with a great riding master. You can seek one out or an influence by apprenticing yourself and say, I want to work in your stables in Germany or in Sweden. So may I come and spend 3 months with you? And that's how close you can get to it. But no longer are children, they weren't children in the arts, but more like early teens, 12-year-olds, apprenticed to a great master's studio and home. And they were basically servants. They waited on the master.
Similar to what we might call a working student now.
Working student, and they had conversation over the dinner table, and they had chores to do together and discover a word in a certain term unique to that master. And Michelangelo had Polaiuolo. It was the same thing. And he way outranked Polaiuolo. They are not even on the same page, but that man could raise a person like Michelangelo to what he was. So these in the riding world, as all mentoring art, are very important. You have to have riding teachers who also can talk to you about opera or Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 2. And because that's a better riding teacher.
Okay.
And that raises the next generation to, so it's not a Disney world. It's not make-believe castles, yeah? It's the real thing. You are with a person who has some depth, who has some understanding, not just knowledge, understanding.
Yeah.
And then you say, I want to mix with these people because I am changing. I'm changing.
Yes.
So that's the way it goes now, I think.
I love how you said that your best friend is your contact book, right? That
yes, it
in
is.
This day and age, it's very similar to this engagement here, right? Our conversations back and forth in your salon, and
well, this is like a salon. What we are doing right here is a salon, but only the two of us. And when it was the great actress Sarah Bernard, sometimes it was 50 people in the salon, but she had a big salon.
Ah.
And we have a small one.
Yes, yes,
Well,
we have a small one, but it is great that we can share, and that's something that I think we're really lucky in this age, in this time,
yes,
right, in this century,
yes,
that we have these things accessible to us. So if we can't move in with, a mentor,
yeah,
we can, as you said, we have the access in our contact book. We have
yes,
the internet. We have Google. We have
yes,
the technology that allows us to connect, to share,
yes,
and at the same time, we have the books, right?
yes,
We have
yes,
the theory in print that we can go back and read, or heaven
yes,
forbid. I know I'm fortunate now, driving down the road from clinic to clinic. We have books on audio cassette, right, or
yes,
on CD and things like that. That we can listen to rather than read, so you can
yeah,
hear it and immerse yourself, as you said, that immersion into
yes.
that as a lifestyle.
And a book, and for that matter, a lecture, an essay, a book, any information that's distilled anymore to that essentials, it becomes a skeleton of something much bigger. But you
Ah,
have to put the muscle and the meat on the skeleton. The skeleton is the book you read. It was the same if you read a great novel like Anna Karenina or something.
okay.
Forget about it's not all about Anna Karenina and Vronsky or anything like that. It's about the craving for love that has fire in it. And this craving that you can't put out, there's no way to submit that. And it takes you to tragedy. And you know, as you march into the furnace, so to speak, that you are marching into tragedy, but it is your only option. The love is so burning, it became your only option, so you can't escape it. So it has a meaning beyond that, pretty girl gets, good heavens, it's been told many, many times. So, um, but this kind of use of books that's why we are talking about my book in the chapters, because you can enlarge on it and say, okay,
Hmm.
this is the short version of it, but what we talk about is, a longer version.
Yes, yes. Do you ever read back through the books that you've written? And as you're going through this, I feel like the timing is right to ask this question. Do you ever read back through those books and think, boy, I wish I would have gone this other direction with what I wrote, or I wish I would have added so much more?
Yes, and when I read, it's very much like editing, and it tells sometimes you should have elaborated on this issue, because when you write, you don't notice that you are sinning with by omission, because I omitted things that could have said or should have been said, but in my mind it's so clear.
Yes.
It's like when I talk about my life or history, and I say something that we had Nazi intelligence officers lodged in our chateau, and then the Americans would say, "Oh, why should they be there?" In other words, I say, "My God, I just said the skeleton." I have to back wheel and say, why? Because they came and invaded the country on March 19th, etc. So when you write a book, you forget that the reader doesn't have your information. They
Yes.
don't know why is a Nazi officer in your living room, but the person who had one
Hmm.
knows why he was there, certainly not by invitation. But the point is, when I wrote these books, like even the one you and I talked about, uh, yeah, I feel at times, oh God, just two more sentences would have clarified that better.
Yeah.
But it's too late. It's edited. It's finished.
Mhm.
You know what Leonardo was asked? How do you finish your paintings? And Leonardo said, by putting down my brush. Because
Aha.
if you make one more brush stroke, you have to reconfigure the whole painting.
Yes.
So I finished my chapters when I stopped typing,
Uh,
because if I expend two more sentences, then I change the whole picture, then I have to repaint the other corner too.
Yeah.
And it's like, when do you finish your book? When you stop typing. That's when I finished my books,
Yes.
because there was much more to say, but you don't want to say it now.
Yes. Well, and that's where, what I found really enlightening and enjoyable was when we got to go through that first chapter of your book, and
Yeah.
you got to expand on it, right? We got to
Yeah.
talk more about it. It's a 10-minute read, and we talked for, I think, an hour and a half on it,
Exactly. And this is what a book should actually do. This is, whether it's a novel like Anna Karenina or Madame Bovary or something, it's just a skeleton. You can talk about it because the message is beyond. It's the understanding,
Yeah.
what you take.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the big secret. That is not just the knowledge. You have to understand what's cooking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that takes us into a lot, this idea of the theory, our theory as riders and learning that theory. And you talk about, being educated in the institutions or having the mentors. And, we talked a little bit about it when we discussed that first chapter of that book. You've mentioned that the student that doesn't have knowledge of the theory is practically unteachable, or
Yes.
something along those lines.
Exactly like what you said. It's unteachable.
Hmm, hmm, yeah. And
Because
so getting that theory, where do we turn to? Where do we look to?
books, lectures, instructors who know the subject.
Hmm.
That's your only, because it's no longer formalized into rigorous academies for years and years. So you have to pick it up sort of piecemeal. But it's very true that the pupil has to really bring a lot, not just the body, but even the body. How many times do I have to say, close your fist, thumb down, etc.? And I put the fist position, gets my 10-minute lecture. All the angles, the right angle when the knuckles touch, to this angle, that angle, close your hand. So we had the expression, now I forgot the first word for the expression, just a minute. There are, yes, categoric positions and evolutionary. Everything is categoric in the rider's seat, to the two seat bones and the pelvis and the lower back and the limbs, the legs are evolutionary. They develop into the correct position and correct application. But the shoulder, arm, torso, rib cage, abdominal grid, neck, on and on, that's not evolutionary. Explain it once, sculpt it once. This is how you look. This is how you feel. Look in the mirror, what you look like now. You keep it there for 11 years. Then I'll add a good idea after 11 years of that posture. But that's because the position is categorical. And when the horse moves and you keep that same position, it's called posture.
Yes.
Opposite. The posture is sculpted, and when the horse moves, that's categorical. Then it's position. The horse moves you in a position. So this is how one cannot teach a person that cannot keep a fist closed, but keep fingering the rein like a concert pianist playing a Hachaturian sound. No, you have to stop your fingers. You have to close your fist because it's an isometric steadier. You have to, it is totally important that it doesn't have a life on its own. It's part of the torso. So all these things are not teachable to a person who doesn't bring enough preparation to have a vocabulary to work with.
Yes.
Yes. And it's the same in all schooling. You cannot teach a person who doesn't speak your language. If I would talk to you in German or Hungarian, maybe it doesn't mean then anything.
Right.
But it became meaningful because we speak together the same language.
Yes.
It's
That
very much like that.
Yes, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this in, a question from a listener here, because we're talking about this
Yeah.
terminology. We're talking about this language, and you used the analogy earlier of the contact of the rider
Yeah.
water skiing and that sort of thing, and
Yes.
talking about contact. And a listener, Biddy, she typed in, "Can you give your definition of contact?" So we'll go somewhere really specific instead of theoretical here with this.
Yes.
What would you consider to be the definition of contact, or what is the definition?
What is, it's not my consideration,
Yes.
but it is. And here it is. Contact is made by the horse. So the horse contacts a bit, which is a piece of metal, iron, keyword, hanging in his mouth. It's not flexed or forced against the jawbone at all.
Okay.
So hanging in the mouth, beat. And the horse connects to, seeks to carry the posture in a certain frame because you offered the hanging of the bit at a certain distance from your elbows. Upper arms and elbows work together. From the elbows on, it's a certain distance on the rein. You have to find by sliding your fingers back on the rein until you can flatten your shoulder blades and stop your two elbows completely above the seat bones. And that's where you hold it and you don't yield it. It's called passive resistance. But you don't feel you resist anything, but you resist motion. You don't, they say, follow the walk, follow. No, don't follow. No, presentation. You don't rock with it at all. Your arm, torso, no. Stop your arm, elbow, shoulders. You present the bit to the horse, and the horse acknowledges it because when you hold that presentation, your seat bone becomes a precise weight vector, and the horse can step under that weight vector and lift it. And this the horse does, and that's why the answer is the contact is done by the horse with his hocks reaching for the direction of the bridle. So the rotation of the hocks are not just forward, but upward, because where is the bit hanging and where is the hocks? How many feet of difference? The hocks are down by the floor, the bit is up here, and he has to motion the hocks and wear the weight on the hocks towards the bridle by arching his entire skeleton into what we on underbittedness, which is correctly called longitudinal flexion,
Okay.
to produce an imaginary bowstring connecting the hocks to the bridle, and above it an imaginary bow that you can lengthen by giving a longer frame on the rein, and shorten when the horse offers a shorter frame because he took more weight on the haunches. So the horse determines the posture,
Okay.
but it's always a bow with resilience and softness through which the horse transports his energy of the hocks into the bridle as his resting place. The bridle is never pulled back towards the horse. The most severe position is the presentation, when you absolutely lock up, eliminate every motion. You sit in a military position, and if the horse tests on the bit and rocks a little bit, he finds where you hold the frame, because every time he tests the bit forward, he's pulling you into himself, not out of himself. So he doesn't get your fingers loose, your elbows loose, and the falling chest forward and the stooped rounded shoulder looking like a waiter carrying some muffins. You have to look like a rider on a horse presenting the bit, and the horse accommodates the bit by discovering your center of gravity related to your weight vector down on him. And the weight can only deepen down into the horse, never lightens and leaves the horse. So the contact is hock contacting bridle. Bridle is hanging loose and can be further suppled by the rider's wrist. Never dislodge your elbow and upper arm. That's your seat. But the lower arm and wrist can vibrate to jiggle the bit of the ring of the bit. And another principle subject to this is that we don't ride the bit. We ride the ring of the bit. That's why we have, did anybody ask, why do we have a ring on the bit? Why isn't the metal pull with a hole and we pull through the string? No, we have a ring because you can vibrate it and tell the horse by the rocking of the bit to relax and submit the pole. Very different.
Yes.
So the contact has absolutely, and what is being taught, hang on to him, shorten the rein, reach forward. You dislodge the rider. There are no upper arms, no elbows, no shoulders, no wrists, no closed fingers. There's a waiter carrying some muffins across the restaurant. It's a disaster. It has nothing to do with the horse. Should be like a suction cup, bringing the rider down into himself. This produces the correct seat, which is not just adhesive. It's beyond adhesive. It's integrated.
Integrated. Yeah, I heard you talk about that. That's such an important
And
difference.
it is such an important, and the correct contact, which is the feeling of no contact. When a horse contacts correctly, your hands are empty. That's why Dr. Klimke said a million times and loudly, you never feel the horse's mouth, never. You just feel a rather light leather weight in your hand and wonder what's on the end of the leather. The end of the leather is the empty bit with an empty horse that doesn't struggle. Why? Because the haunches, it's all about the haunches. From green to forever. It's all about the haunches you are training and engaging. And if there's any pressure backwards on the bit, any hold, any framing, any shaping of the neck with the bridle, not with the hocks, you arrested and diminished the eloquence of all the joints in the haunches. And the most difficult joint to mobilize and correctly teach the horse to use correctly is the sacrolumbar joint, the lumbosacral joint, because it is the one in charge of tilting the pelvis forward and lowering the haunches. There is no engagement in a horse without the lumbosacral joint. And the others, the easy ones, are dependent on self-carriage, no gathering of the rein and shortening the frame. That's a big no-no. And the sad results of it are often visible in competition.
Yes, yes.
Did I answer it?
That makes me curious. That seems to be misinterpreted. And maybe I have a misinterpretation of it. I don't know. But you mentioned self-carriage.
Yes.
How would we define self-carriage in the horse?
Exactly.
Is that the horse on the loose rein just carrying himself? Is that, what are we looking at?
But it's not the self-carriage presumes that the horse is in a posture that's longitudinally flexed, because that's a precondition to working under the alien weight of the rider, free of pain. If you have um, any trouble with the longitudinal flexion, the horse is suffering to a certain degree because we gain the only posture is the longitudinal flexion in which the horse is correct in carrying weight on top, not behind. There is no second choice. This is it. That's it. You have to live with it. You like it or not. And this is why the daily vocabulary is to ride in all gaits in many frames. Longer frame, shorter frame, test it out. Is he still light? Is the wrist still vibrating loose? Is he not to lean into it, right? So the horse has to be in self-carriage, but in the only posture which is pain-free from the weight of the rider. We cause a lot of muscle and skeletal pain. It's no joking, it's serious. And these horses get a chiropractor and injection and this and that. No, you are the injection, you are the chiropractor, you are the responsible to know how to make longitudinal flexion. Again, presentation of the bit, not seesawing, not rocking the horse right and left. No, no, no. You have to have a teacher who knows this stuff and teach you how the contact is evolved. And then the horse in the right posture carries in perfect balance, clean gaits. That's called self-carriage. When the horse is advanced, it is so well done by the horse who, of course, enjoys the comfort level of this new suspension and minimum effort to maximum lift. That's what the horse feels. When he is that well cadenced and feels this, he will maintain the momentum you give. And that's the pinnacle of self-carriage. So Dr. Klimke did at the end of winning test in Los Angeles, he made the honor round 101 flying changes. Yes. Now, and he never had to prompt it. He just sit down comfortably. Yes. And the point I'm making is on self-carriage, a trained horse, a well-schooled horse, say fourth level and up or so, you put him to a medium trot, regardless where, then 20-meter circle, then straight line, then short diagonal, then 20-meter circle. He never loses it. He's motoring because you didn't tell not to. That's called self-carriage. It's a very important principle when the horse reads your mind. When I want to quit medium trot, I will ask you.
Yes.
We will do the right lead canter, but then I ask it. Yeah. Yes. So, but self-carriage starts on day one. On the rankest, greenest racehorse on day one, you already encourage that he doesn't lean anywhere. Out shoulder, in shoulder, pivot the buttocks, pivot hip. No, that's all problem. You correct him, align him, straighten him endlessly, day after day. And then he is in self-carriage, because self-carriage is the triumph of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation of the clear gaits with suspension, plus the alignment of the spine on the arc on which the horse moves. So the horse's evolution in physiotherapy ends up with the triumph of self-carriage. A horse correctly aligned and in a clean cadence space is in self-carriage.
That's perfect. I really, really love that description, that definition, how that becomes therapeutic.
Yes, it's balance victorious. Balance. You give both reins forward 2 inches, he doesn't run off. He is still, he makes his collection.
He's still where he, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, and I hate to interject with this, but I'm compelled to, we talk about the horse that doesn't run off. right?
Yes,
We talk about the horse that says, yes, we're going to go for that right lead canter after the medium
yes.
turn, but it's when I ask. Would you say that there's a bit of emotional self-carriage on the part of the horse as well as there is physical self-carriage?
Not a bit of, but absolutely devoted. Horses act sometimes when they like you, that they would go to battle for you, they would do anything for you. And it's totally a mental, the so called submission, which is a tasty word, but honestly, it is the horse's, the horse submits to your will because you convinced him that you are more secure than his instincts. So, so this is why. Do I have a minute to say one more
Yes,
time
let's.
story?
Yes, let's. I want to be respectful of your time, but yes, let's. I feel like we need to have another.
Just a tiny story. So I was told that, the great general, the American Patton, saved the Spanish riding school and its horses from the Russians who were taking them into oblivion, of course, as usual. But the thing was that he saved them and he brought them back to Vienna and they prospered and went back to schooling. And as a gratitude and as a thank you note, they, for the first time, left the school to go all the way to America and perform a gorgeous presentation in Washington, D.C. For the president and for everybody. And we all know the horse's instincts, don't we? We don't have to recite them. So end of performance, Podolsky, the director of the school, is left in the center of the arena on his stallion. And they are standing four square and very nicely. And he is holding all the reins in left hand and the right hand is down, hanging for the salute and all of that. And they stand there. And something approaches that is a helicopter. Can you picture the insanity for noise, wind, stench? So the utter predator eating horses for breakfast, the noise is deafening. There's a spotlight where blinds the horse. The wind of the propellers is stormy. Nothing moves.
Wow.
So that's submission.
Yes.
My security is in your hands, not in the instinct. The instinct says, move, run. This is horrible, let's run. No, you said we are not running, let's just hang around. And he stood through the whole ceremony like that. So this is this is the mind of the horse. You convinced me that I can trust you. And this is why I say the only teaching that registers in a horse is reward. You stand, depart the left lead canter. The moment he lifts into the left lead canter, you touch his neck with your fist, has the rein in it, of course. You touch his neck as a token. You are a genius. I touch you, little genius. Then flying change in the corner. Oops, you did it, little genius. You touch his neck. He learns, the horse learns, gosh, this guy is just melting into a puddle of oil. And so the horse will do anything for you. You never hit, you never offend, you never control. You can't punish a horse because animals don't have the concept of punishment. I am heartbroken when people punish their dogs. It's a nightmare. It's like going to it's a nightmare because that dog never knows why they are beating him, has no idea. Right. And the horse is the same. You can't hit a horse. What for? He's not going to say, well, let me reconsider. He's not going to say that. Yeah. Do you see my point? Yeah. So anyway, I thank you for your attention. We talked a lot, but I hope it's useful for some.
I think so. We've got a lot of listeners typing in that are really enjoying the conversation. So if you don't mind, I have a couple wrap-up questions that I'd like
Yes,
to throw your way, and
yes,
then we'll do a closing. And I feel like we've got so much more that we could talk about that maybe I'll snag you into
yes,
doing
yes.
it.
Like how about an academy for 2-year courses, and you can be a teacher there, and I can be the janitor, and I can whisper suggestions. You see what I mean? So,
Oh my goodness.
okay. So what's your question?
Oh my gosh. I think we'd give you a higher rank than janitor. I think that
Oh,
either way, the whispering of suggestions would be great.
yeah.
Oh goodness. So a first question here, what would you give as an actionable tip or thought for our riders out there that they could work on, or if they can't be with their horse because of this virus pandemic, maybe it's something that they can think about or consider. What would be one tip or thought for riders?
That you can work them on a lunge line, but the human contact should not stop, not at all. You can work on a lunge line, of course, correctly, because even there is a correct way of doing it and a bad way of doing it. But it's very important to stay in touch with the horse like that. And yes, and they continue until it's safe and allowed, and then you sit.
Perfect. Perfect. Good. What is a recent book that you've read or video that you've watched?
Videoed, a recent book I videoed or
A,
something.
a recent book that you've read or a recent video that you've watched?
Oh, well, in videos, there are, everything is now on Netflix. So I see some of these B movies nonstop, the career of Mrs. So and so, and now it's Hollywood, and there's always something sensational and dubious in meaning and all of that stuff. Yeah, I watch some of those, but I tell you what to me should be absolutely compulsory in every high school in the United States or anywhere where there's freedom and liberty. World War II. It's a non-stop program on Channel 80. That's all they show. Whichever day you catch it on, it's either, the bombardment of Germany or the whatever it is. It's non-stop, and the terrible atrocities, because they were all filmed for propaganda value. And now, and for me, who lived it and whose parents were ravaged by it, is incredible to rewatch. They never showed anything I didn't know. When they show the corpses of Jewish concentration camps in heaps as tall as a pyramid, I mean, to me, it's not news, but I want to relive it by watching it because I honor the horrors they sacrificed for us.
Yes.
And so I watch a lot of those, but why are Americans so utterly uninformed about it? Just utterly. And anytime I recollect a little thing that happened to me or my parents during those years, people are awestruck and say, why don't we know this? Ask your government, ask your teachers, why don't you know these things?
Yeah.
It's amazing how it's almost like a forbidden line. Don't say a bad word about, no. It's, you cannot know what the Berlin Wall was. No. You can just see when they were hammered it apart, but that was just kind of a mistake. But my God, what that wall represented and how many thousands of people perished because of that wall.
Yeah.
No, it's never in a school curriculum. So that kind of stuff sends me into orbit because I watched them and I was against the wall to be shot many times, not many times, a few times. But I was shot at many times. And when I escaped, I was on intermittent machine gun fire, hunted for 6 hours. And I arrived in my skin. I mean, people just think that, oh, you emigrated to the United States, you just walked across the border. No, 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 no. There were some people who were keeping me in there. And when you escaped from those fellows, they fired rounds and rounds of submachine gun bullets around you. We were, the bullets closed, so close, cut into the land that they spattered mud on us, lying on the floor.
Incredible.
Yeah, well, nobody knows that in America because we love the Soviet Union. No, no, they wanted to eat you alive. They were working on it. Well, anyway, but those things are not. I refer to some very lightly in my book of tyranny, surviving tyranny, because it kept my sanity. Horses kept my sanity. There is no question about it.
Yes.
But, other people broke down, and I was under particularly very targeted because I was an enemy of the people, of course, an aristocrat, and we were to die and we were to be examples of the proletariat victory and all of that crap.
Yes.
And the point was that we were really the targets.
Wow.
Full-time targets, like, day and night targets. So anyway, but the horsemanship, kept me personally, but kept also the more dangerous people away from me because I became privileged as a rider.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
And once there was a wall of protection from the higher ups. So the secret police was called off. The hunting dogs were called off to hunt.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the kind of life Americans never learn about. And it's high time somebody should tell them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's something to be aware of for sure. Something to learn
Yeah.
about. Wow. And you said that's World War II and it's on constantly.
Yeah, World War II is where I live in Palm Springs. It's on public channel. It's 80, and it has a name like History Channel, or it's some kind of a name like, I think, History Channel. And then they had on PBS a short, 2-hour short, but very important, The World on Fire, which is World War II.
Yeah.
And that was on the PBS channel.
Okay, perfect. Good.
But it's only 2 hours, and my access, as I said, I can watch it every day of my life, any hour, because it's a nonstop,
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, those of us who live through these things are flabbergasted that people living in freedom absolutely have no clue that this was going on.
No idea. Sure.
It's stunning. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, if you have a riding academy, I'll go there and lecture on the war history. We can talk about the lateral movements, and I'll talk about history.
I'll take you up on that. Oh goodness.
Oh,
What is something that the horse has given to you?
well, sort of everything, It's self-discovery, responsibility, affection, loving, and all of that stuff. I'm a much more, I am very easily worried about other creatures, horses, dogs, people, or anything than I would have without. But the horses from childhood were important because we still used carriages. We didn't use automobiles. Well, we had one in the town, but no, we sat in carriages. I see these wonderful British films about, the castles, Downton Abbey and all those, and everybody in carriages. And that's how I lived in the good old days. riding carriages that were, rocking like, swaying like little cradles, and beautiful horses in the front, blowing through their nose and trotting. And then everybody in town stopped and gaped at us because when you rode into town with a carriage of elegant horses and magnificent carriages, I mean, they weren't, scrap iron, they were fabulous carriages. And then people stopped on the sidewalks and just gaped at it. It was a source of joy for them. Everybody admired them.
Yeah.
They never forgot, even now when I go back, and some people who remember it, they say, we never stopped admiring how it all looked, and so all of that. But so anyway, horses were the big treasure. I always wanted to see horses, and I wanted to touch them. Of course, my father was very strict and told us horrible things. You cannot go past the girt line of the horse, and we had to point out where this girt line. If you go past it, I give you a spanking. You go past, you will be hit immediately when you. And then I walked under the girt line. Imagine mares sucking their babies and protecting their babies.
Oh my goodness.
I ducked down and went behind the front legs of the mares to the other side. And when my father screamed at me, I said, "You said I can do in front of the girt line." I ducked under and went to the other side. And well, because I always wanted to be with horses. I thought I was part of the herd, and I just trotted in. But and it was a natural way. Everybody rode in those days.
Mhm.
All the everybody really. The peasants rode, the aristocracy rode, the military rode. We all stayed on horseback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So you mentioned self-discovery in
Yeah.
that. So that puts us perfectly into my next question, that this is a constant journey of discovery and improvement. What area right now of your horsemanship or self-development are you working on or wanting to improve?
Well, now I no longer ride because my doctors don't let me. I had a heart attack, and so they don't want me to die yet. So they forbid me to ride a horse or even sit on one. But now I hope that I guide other people who want to be enlightened or educated or I don't know what. I'm a teacher, and I was, as all teachers, I'm a judge. A good teacher is a good judge. The two things are totally together. In the judging, you just miss out on suggesting the corrections and the improvements to the rider. But you do the same, it's diagnostic. You know the goals and you know how it rates on the goals, high or low. You assign the value in a grade. If you know your subject, judging is not subjective, it's completely factual, objective, and you do it without hesitation. You don't, when I was teaching the L judges program, it was always a problem that the comments were either meaningless or way too slow. I said, by the time the rider starts the next exercise, you should have not just a grade, but a comment already on the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you have to train yourself, and I was teaching that you always try to think or even say the word needs. Needs left bending, needs lower neck, needs more collection, needs whatever. Mm-hmm. Try to see it as somebody showing to you what he has, and you tell him what he needs. He wants to progress. So I said, every comment, try to start. You need. Say something. What do they need? Oh, but I haven't seen. I said, no, then next time watch better. more concentration,
Mhm.
more. Or what didn't you know about it? Did the horse overstride with the hind leg in the medium trot? I didn't notice. Well, he didn't.
Mm.
What's your grade? I said, it's not 7. I help you. What's your grade? It's not 7, it's less. Mm. So anyway, I think all I can do is teach. I always taught and judged. Even when I was writing, we were trained to teach. We were trained to teach
Mhm.
because it's a special skill.
Certainly.
Really it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your next question?
So next question.
I have only 10 more minutes.
Oh, perfect. Good. We're wrapping up here. So this one may be my favorite for answers. If you had a giant billboard advertisement for the whole world to see, what would be the message that you'd put on it?
Oh, well, you mean in any subject or in any
Anything at all? Yeah.
a whole billboard? Consider facts a reality. Everybody lives in a theater of fantasy words. I want attention. I dye my hair green. Well, stop it. I mean, this world is bizarre. And they have imaginary enemies and imaginary horrors and everybody's theatrically labeled. Everybody is a devil and a god. No, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Mm.
Again, in the 19th century culture where I was born into, people still were in touch with reality. They actually credited reality. They were bad people. Oh, you can't say that. If we just diversify a little bit, everybody is loving. No. There are nasty people in this world. Mm-hmm. And they shoot babies, for instance. Yeah. And they throw the babies up into the air like clay pigeon, and they shoot it in the air as it's flying. And these are bad people. Oh, no. It's love and peace that makes the world. No, it's not. Mm. So, and of course, I think in all, goal of life is giving, really. If this is a school, if this reincarnation is a school, we are to learn to give. Oh, I love XYZ. No, you don't. You love people you give to. If you give something, then I might believe that you love. But what do you mean, I love? I just love this and just love. Here, everybody is having a crush on love. I used to, when I was teaching psychology, I said, when you have your boyfriend come to you and say, I love you, honey, that's what he's not doing. He's speaking. He should say, I'm speaking, honey. You are a winner. You are bright. But this constant verbally say, I love you, I love you. No, you are talking. You have a dizzy head. No, you don't love people when you, before the telephone, I love you. No, that's not love. When you say in the telephone, I don't think I ever said to my mother, I love you. She kind of presumed it because I demonstrated it like about every day twice. I mean, for God's sakes, I didn't have to end the telephone call. Mother, I love you. Don't forget it.
Oh, goodness. So, Charles, this has been, as always, a real pleasure, a real treat. Thank you very much for spending this time. How can people find you if they want to find out more information about you and your salon? How can they find out more?
Well, they can write, I think my website is charleskunffy.com, I hope, because I keep saying, so if they go there, there are places where they can, and otherwise, I don't mind publishing my email so long as people don't send me nasty messages or something. But I some people approach me on email and ask me a question, and but I think on my website there's a place they can ask a question.
Perfect.
And they can call up
through there as well, correct?
Call up Catherine and she will guide them there. But email is all right, but I try to spam what looks suspicious and nasty looking.
Yes.
So I don't know if I can read everything, but that's it. Yeah.
Great.
But we will probably have other sessions, and then they can tell you the questions and then you can ask.
Perfect. That'll be great. I really look forward to that.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, always a pleasure listening to your insight, your stories. Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can hang on for just a moment.
Yes.
Gang, I want to thank you for tuning in to episode number 52 of Talking About Horses. I really appreciate you giving Charles and I your ear for this time. Please remember that if you've missed any of it, you can access the full broadcast through Facebook, eventually YouTube and iTunes, or by streaming directly from my website by accessing the Talking About Horses page from the Education drop-down menu. And through whatever platform you're listening, please be sure to give us a rating, a comment, a review, and maybe a share with your friends. Thank you so much, and be sure to tune in next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Talking About Horses with Patrick King. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review and subscribe. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit pkhorsemanship.com. We'll catch you next time.